The war room of the Coalition flagship was cold. Screens covered every wall, showing battles across a dozen worlds. Officers from 12 different species worked at their stations, but all eyes kept moving to one figure. General Vor stood at the center, his scaled body towering over everyone else. His yellow eyes watched the screens with hunger. VOR was Keth. His people believed in one truth. Above all others, a warrior dies fighting. Never running. Never hiding. For 300 years, the Keith had led the Galactic Coalition with this code. And for 300 years, no one had questioned it until today. On one screen, a small planet called Tellus 9 burned. The Rin Collective had arrived with 200,000 soldiers. Their insect-like bodies moved across the surface like a dark wave, eating everything in their path. The Rin did not negotiate. They did not take prisoners. They consumed. A young Tal officer looked up from his station. His gray skin had gone pale. General Outpost Kira is reporting. The 7th Human Division is requesting permission to fall back. Vor's eyes narrowed. Fall back? Yes, General. They say the refugee camp behind them has 40,000 civilians. Mostly Keth and Tal families. They want to protect the evacuation. The order was clear, Vor said. His voice was like stones grinding together. Hold the line. Die with honor. That is the code, the tall officer swallowed. Should I relay that message, General? I already did. 12 hours ago. Vor turned back to the screen, showing Tellus 9. Let us see if the humans understand what it means to be warriors. On the surface of Tellus 9, Sergeant Minho Park understood exactly what the order meant. It meant death. Not just for his soldiers, but for the 40,000 innocent people behind them. He stood on a ridge overlooking the valley. The Rin were coming. He could see them now, a dark line stretching across the horizon. 200,000 against his 500. The math was simple. The math was impossible. Sergeant, Lieutenant Junho Lee walked up beside him. Junho was calm, as always. His face showed nothing. But Minho had served with him for 6 years. He could see the tension in his shoulders, the tightness around his eyes. You saw the order. I saw it, and... Minho was quiet for a long moment. Behind them, the refugee camp was alive with panic. Mothers carried children. Old men helped each other walk. Medical shuttles were still 90 minutes away. 90 minutes. An eternity, the evacuation shuttles, Minho said. How long until they arrive? 90 minutes. Maybe less, if they push the engines. And if we hold this ridge the way Vor wants? Standing formation? No retreat? Junho's jaw tightened. 20 minutes. Maybe 30. Then we all die. Then the Rin reach the camp. 40,000 civilians die too. Yes, Minho turned to look at his lieutenant. They had fought together on 7 worlds. They had bled together, mourned together, celebrated together. And now they stood at the edge of something that could not be taken back. I have an idea, Minho said quietly. But you will not like it. Tell me. We fall back. Fighting withdrawal. We use the terrain, set traps, collapse tunnels. We make them pay for every step. We buy time until the shuttles arrive. Junho closed his eyes. Vor will call us cowards. Yes. The entire galaxy will watch us run. Yes. Our names will be spoken with shame. Minho nodded slowly. But 40,000 people will live. Keth children. Tal families. People who never asked to be in this war. He paused. What is our honor worth, Lieutenant? Is it worth more than their lives? Junho was silent for a long time. The wind blew dust across the ridge. In the distance, the Rin army grew closer. Finally, Junho opened his eyes. Give the order, Sergeant. We fall back. The retreat began. Private Unicong was the first to understand what they were doing. She was a medic, trained to save lives, and she had treated enough wounded soldiers to know what a suicidal stand looked like. This was not that. This was something else. Covering fire. Minho shouted. First squad, fall back to position 2. Second squad, hold until they clear. The humans moved like water. They fired, retreated, fired again. They used every rock, every hill, every broken building. When the Rin pushed forward, they found traps, explosives buried in the ground, tunnels that collapsed on their heads. Sniper fire from positions they could not see. It was not glorious. It was not honorable by Keth standards, but it was effective. On the flagship, General Vor watched with growing rage. "What are they doing?" he demanded. "They are running. They are running like animals." "General," the Tal officer said carefully, "they appear to be conducting a tactical withdrawal. Their casualties are minimal while Rin losses are. I do not care about Rin losses. I care about honor. About duty." Vor slammed his fist against the console. The metal bent under his strength. "Open a channel. All coalition frequencies. Every ship, every world, every station. I want everyone to see this." The officer hesitated. "General, do it." The channel opened. Across the galaxy, billions of beings turned to their screens. They saw Talasanine. They saw the human soldiers falling back, fighting, retreating, fighting again. And they heard General Vor's voice. "Look at them," Vor said. His words dripped with contempt. "Look at the humans, cowards, running like prey. This is why Earth will never be respected. This is why humans will never be true warriors. They shame the coalition. They shame us all." On Telos 9, Minho heard the broadcast. Every soldier in his squad heard it. They saw the message spreading across their communication devices. They saw the word that would follow them forever: cowards. Yuna looked at Minho. Her face was dirty, her uniform torn. Blood that was not her own stained her hands. "Sergeant, did you hear I heard?" Minho's voice was steady. "Keep moving. The shuttles are 70 minutes out." "But he called us." "I know what he called us." Minho turned to face his squad. Exhausted soldiers, scared soldiers, brave soldiers who had chosen shame to save innocent lives. "Let him talk. We have work to do." And they kept running, not away from the enemy, but toward the people who needed them. The hours that followed were the longest of Minho's life. Every minute felt like an eternity. Every step backward was paid for in blood. The Rin did not stop coming. They poured over the hills like a flood, their clicking sounds filling the air, their sharp legs tearing through the ground. 500 humans had started the retreat. Now 340 remained. Yuna worked without rest. She moved between wounded soldiers, patching holes, stopping bleeding, whispering words of comfort. Her hands never shook, even when she was treating injuries that would have made most people sick. A soldier named Taiho had lost his leg below the knee. She tied it off, gave him painkillers, and helped him onto another soldier's back. "Keep moving," she told him. "We are almost there," was a lie. They were not almost there, but sometimes lies were necessary. Minho led from the front and the back and everywhere in between. He seemed to be in 3 places at once. When a squad got pinned down, he was there with covering fire. When a position was about to be overrun, he was there with grenades. When soldiers started to break, started to think about giving up, he was there with calm words and steady eyes. 60 minutes, Junho reported through the radio. "Shuttles are 60 minutes out. How many did we lose?" A pause. 160. "We are down to 340. Minho closed his eyes for just a moment. 160 soldiers. 160 families who would receive messages of death. 160 empty seats at dinner tables back on Earth. The civilians. He asked, "Safe. The camp is holding. The Rin have not broken through." "Then we keep going." They kept going. The galaxy kept watching. General Vor had wanted everyone to see human cowardice. Instead, they saw something else. They saw soldiers who refused to break. They saw medics carrying wounded aliens on their backs. They saw humans dying, not in glorious charges, but in careful, painful steps backward, each step buying another second of life for 40,000 strangers. The Keth people watched with confusion. This was not how warriors behaved, but those were Keth children in that camp. Keth families. and the humans were bleeding for them. The Tal people watched with something like recognition. The Tal had always been the gentle ones in the coalition. They understood protecting the weak. They had just never seen anyone else do it. On dozens of worlds, beings turned to each other and asked the same question. Why? Why would they die for people who are not their own? No one had an answer. The shuttles arrived with 30 minutes to spare. Minho had not expected to feel relief. There was no time for relief. But when he saw those ships breaking through the clouds, something loosened in his chest. Move, he shouted. Get the civilians on board. Go, go, go. The evacuation was chaos. Mothers screamed for children. Children screamed for parents. Soldiers lifted the elderly and carried them up the ramps. Una directed traffic, pointing families toward shuttles, making sure no one was left behind. 40,000 civilians. 12 shuttles. It should have been impossible. But humans had always been good at impossible things. The Rin saw what was happening. They pushed harder. The dark wave crashed against the human lines with terrible force. More soldiers fell. 340 became 210. Then 150. Then 80-9 soldiers. 12 shuttles full of civilians. And a Rin army that would not stop. The last shuttle was ready. It could hold 60 more passengers. 8 soldiers remained. Lieutenant Junho made the math work in his head. His face went pale. Everyone board, he ordered. That is a direct command. Everyone no. Gunho turned. Minho stood behind him, rifle in hand. His face was calm. Sergeant, I am ordering you too. The shuttle cannot take off with the Rin this close. They will shoot it down. Minho looked at the sky, then at the approaching army. Someone has to stay. Someone has to cover the launch. I will stay, Junho said immediately. No, you are the ranking officer. You need to get these people home. Minho stepped past him. I will hold them. You cannot hold 200,000 Rin alone. Minho smiled. It was a tired smile, but real. I will not be alone. Yuna appeared at his shoulder. Her arm was bandaged, her medic bag nearly empty. I am staying. Another soldier stepped forward. Then another. Then another 29 humans stood in a line. They looked at each other, at the shuttles behind them, at the Rin ahead of them. They knew what they were choosing. They chose it anyway. Junho stared at them. His eyes were wet. You do not have to do this. Yes, we do, Una said simply. Someone always has to do the hard thing. Today, it is us. The lieutenant stood frozen for a long moment. Then he saluted. A proper Earth salute, the kind they taught in basic training. It has been an honor. Minho returned the salute. Get them home, Lieutenant. That is an order. Junho boarded the shuttle. The doors closed. The engines fired. 29 humans watched it rise into the sky. They watched until it was just a point of light. They watched until it was gone. Then they turned around. The Rin were close now. So close that Minho could see the details of their faces, if those things could be called faces. Thousands of eyes. Thousands of legs. Thousands of sharp, hungry mouths. He checked his rifle. Overcharge mode. It would burn out after sustained fire, but it would hit harder. That was the trade. That was always the trade. Form up, he said quietly. Circle formation. Watch each other's backs. The soldiers moved into position. 29 humans in a circle, facing outward, facing death. On the coalition flagship, General Vor watched with cold satisfaction. Now they will break. Now they will show their true nature. Cowards always run in the end. But Minho did not run. Instead, he did something no one expected. He opened a broadcast channel. The same channel Vor had used. Every ship, every world, every station. His voice was calm, steady, unbroken. General Vor, you called us cowards because we ran. Maybe you are right. We were scared. Every soldier here was scared. He paused. Somewhere behind him, Una laughed softly. But we were not running from the enemy. We were running toward the people who needed us. That is what soldiers do on Earth. We do not die for glory. We die for the ones who cannot fight. He raised his rifle. You want to see what human cowards look like when we stop running? 29 soldiers stood ready. Watch. The first wave hit like a wall of death. Minho did not think. He did not feel. He simply moved. His rifle screamed as it fired, each shot burning through Rin bodies like paper. Beside him, Yuna fired with one hand while pulling a wounded soldier back with the other. Around him, 27 other humans did the same. The circle held. On the coalition flagship, General Vor leaned forward. His yellow eyes were fixed on the screen. He expected the humans to fall apart. He expected panic, chaos, surrender. He had seen 1,000 battles. He knew how the weak died. But the humans did not fall apart. They fought in rotation. When one soldier's weapon overheated, another stepped forward to take their place. When one fell, the others closed the gap. They moved like parts of a single machine, each piece knowing exactly where the others would be. "This is impossible," a Keth officer whispered. "They should be dead. They should have broken minutes ago." Vor said nothing. His claws dug into the armrest of his chair. On Tellus 9, Minho lost track of time. There was only the next shot. The next target. The next second of survival. His arms burned. His eyes stung from smoke and dust. But he kept firing. A Rin soldier broke through the line. Its claws reached for Yuna. Minho did not hesitate. He dropped his rifle, drew his knife, and drove it into the creature's neck. It screamed and died. He picked up his rifle and kept shooting. "Status," he shouted. 22 standing. Someone called back. "Taiho is down. Juwu is down. 7 gone. 22 left." And the Rin were still coming. Minho looked at Yuna. Her shoulder was bleeding. A Rin spear had gone straight through in one side and out the other. She had broken off the end and kept fighting. "You should sit down," he told her. She laughed. It was a rough sound, full of pain and exhaustion. "You first, Sergeant," the battle continued. Across the galaxy, no one moved. Trillions of beings watched the 29 humans fight. They watched soldiers who should have died in the first minute survive for an hour, then 2 hours, then 3. The Keth people watched in silence. This was not their way of war, but they could not look away. The Tau people watched with tears in their eyes. The quiet, peaceful Tau who had always been mocked for their softness. They saw themselves in these humans. They saw what courage really looked like. Even the Rin seemed confused. Their commander had expected an easy slaughter. Instead, his army was being bled. For every human they killed, 20 Rin fell. The bodies piled so high that new waves had to climb over their dead. Why do they not break? The Rin commander asked his officers. Why do they not run? No one had an answer. On Tellus 9, Minho heard something strange. At first he thought it was the wind. Then he realized it was coming from his soldiers. They were singing. It was an old song. An Earth song passed down through generations of soldiers. A song about going home. About remembering what mattered. About fighting not for glory, but for the people waiting for you. Yuna's voice joined in. Then another. Then another. 22 voices, then 15, then 9 singing in the middle of hell. General Vor heard the singing. He did not understand the words, but he understood something else. These humans were not afraid. They had accepted death, and in accepting it, they had become something terrifying. "Send reinforcements," he ordered suddenly. His officers stared at him. "General," I said, "send reinforcements." Now? But it was too late. His ships were too far. The battle would be over before they arrived. On the surface, the circle grew smaller. 22 became 15. 15 became 9. 9 became 5. Minho stood back to back with Yuna and 3 others. His rifle was dead, the barrel melted from overuse. He held his knife in one hand and a broken Rin blade in the other. "Well," Yuna said. Her voice was weak. She had lost too much blood. "This is it. Looks that way. Any regrets?" Minho thought about it. He thought about Earth, about his family, about the life he would never have. Then he thought about the shuttles that had escaped. The 40,000 civilians who would live because of what they had done. No, he said. No regrets. The Rin gathered for a final charge. Thousands of them, forming a wave that would crush the last 5 humans like insects. Minho raised his knife. For Earth. For everyone we saved, Yuna whispered. The wave came. And then light. Minho did not understand at first. He thought he was dying. He thought this was what death looked like. A brilliant white light that burned away everything. Then he heard the explosions. Coalition ships broke through the clouds. Not General Vor's ships. Different ships. Ships marked with a symbol of the Tal fleet. A voice crackled through the communication channel. 7th Human Division. This is Commander Kira of the Tal 3rd Fleet. Hold your position. We are coming. The ships opened fire. Not on the humans. On the Rin army, so close to victory, suddenly found itself under attack from above. Missiles rained down. Plasma cannons carved lines through their ranks. In seconds, the unstoppable wave became a scattered mess. Minho fell to his knees. He did not have the strength to stand anymore. Yuna breathed. The tall officer from the flagship. She came. She was not supposed to, Minho said. His voice was barely a whisper. Vor would never have ordered this. She did not wait for orders. Landing craft touched down around them. Tal soldiers poured out, forming a protective ring around the 5 humans. Medical teams rushed forward. Minho looked up at the sky, at the ships that had saved them, at the impossible rescue that should never have happened. Why? He asked a Tal medic, who knelt beside him. Why did you come? The medic looked at him with large, gentle eyes. We watched you. The whole galaxy watched you. We saw what you did for our people. She pressed a bandage against his wounds. You taught us something today. You taught us that courage is not about how you die. It is about why you live. Minho closed his eyes. The sounds of battle faded. The pain faded. For the first time in hours, he allowed himself to rest. 5 humans had survived. 24 had fallen. But 40,000 civilians were safe. The galaxy would never be the same. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. Within hours, every planet, every station, every ship knew what had happened on Telos 9. The footage was everywhere. People watched the retreat, the last stand, the singing soldiers. They watched 29 humans hold against an army of 200,000. They watched 5 survivors stand at the end, broken and bleeding, but undefeated. And they watched General Vor call them cowards. Public opinion shifted like a tide. The Keth people, whose children had been saved by human S. Acrifis demanded answers. The tall people, who had defied orders to send rescue, were celebrated as heroes. Species that had never questioned coalition doctrine now questioned everything. But General Vor was not defeated yet. 2 weeks after the battle, Minho Park received a message. He was ordered to appear before the Coalition High Council. Not as a hero. As an accused criminal, the charges were serious. Insubordination, tactical cowardice, violation of the Warrior's Code. If found guilty, the punishment was death. Yuna read the message over his shoulder. Her new prosthetic arm was still stiff, the metal joints not yet fully connected to her nerves. She had lost her real arm to infection 3 days after the battle. They cannot be serious, she said. They are very serious. Minho folded the message and put it in his pocket. Vor still has allies on the council. Powerful allies. But everyone saw what we did. Everyone knows the truth. Minho looked at her. His eyes were tired. The scars on his face had not fully healed. The truth does not always win, Yuna. Sometimes the powerful decide what truth means. The trial was held on the Coalition homeworld. The chamber was enormous, built to hold representatives from all 12 species. Towering columns rose toward a ceiling painted with stars. At the front, 12 council seats waited for the judges who would decide Minho's fate. The gallery was packed. Beings from every corner of the galaxy had come to watch. News drones hovered in the air, broadcasting to trillions. Minho entered alone. He wore his military uniform, clean and pressed, with the insignia of the 7th Human Division on his shoulder. He walked slowly, his injury still painful, but he did not show it on his face. General Vor was already there. He stood at the prosecutor's platform, his scaled body gleaming under the lights. His yellow eyes followed Minho with cold hatred. "Sergeant Minho Park," the chief counselor announced, "you stand accused of crimes against the Coalition." "How do you answer?" "Not guilty," Minho said. A murmur ran through the gallery. Vor's lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. "Very well. General Vor, present your case." Vor stepped forward. His voice filled the chamber like thunder.
"Oh."
This human disobeyed a direct order. He was commanded to hold his position, to fight to the last soldier, to die with honor as the warrior's code demands. Instead, he ran. He retreated. He showed the galaxy that humans are weak, that they cannot be trusted to stand when the battle grows hard. He turned to face the gallery. The code exists for a reason. It is the foundation of our coalition. It is what separates warriors from cowards. If we allow this violation to go unpunished, we tell every soldier in our forces that orders mean nothing, that honor means nothing, that they can run whenever they choose. He pointed at Minho. This human must be executed, not because I hate him, but because the code demands it, because our civilization demands it. Because if we show mercy here, we show weakness everywhere. The chamber was silent. Vor returned to his platform satisfied. The chief counselor turned to Minho. "Sergeant Park, you may speak in your defense." Minho rose slowly. He looked around the chamber. At the 12 judges, at the packed gallery, at the drones recording everything, then he began. "General Vor is right about one thing. I disobeyed orders. I retreated when I was told to stand. I broke the code that has governed this coalition for 300 years. A whisper ran through the gallery. This was not how a defense was supposed to begin. But here's what the general does not say. Here's what the code does not consider. Minho paused. There were 40,000 civilians behind us. Keth children. Tal families. People who had never held a weapon. People who had nothing to do with our war. He looked at the Keth counselor. Your grandchildren were in that camp. I learned that yesterday. 2 of them. A boy and a girl. 7 and 9 years old. The Keth counselor's face changed. Something flickered in his eyes. If I had followed orders, Minho continued, I would have died with honor. My soldiers would have died with honor. And then the Rin would have reached the camp. And your grandchildren would have died screaming, wondering why the warriors who were supposed to protect them had chosen glory over their lives. He turned to face Vor. You called us cowards, General. You might be right. I was afraid. Every soldier in my squad was afraid. We are humans. We feel fear. But here is what humans learned a long time ago. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is being terrified and fighting anyway. Not for yourself. Not for glory. But for someone else. His voice grew stronger. Your code says die with honor? But what honor is there in dying while innocents burn? What glory is there in a last stand that saves no one? We saved 40,000 lives. We lost 24 soldiers. If that makes us cowards, then I wear that name proudly. He straightened. Execute me if you must. But know this. Humans will never fight your way. We do not believe that honor lives in death. We believe it lives in the people we protect. And we will never, ever stop running toward the ones who need us. The chamber was silent. Then the Keth counselor stood. His movements were slow, deliberate. He removed the ceremonial sash from his shoulder, the symbol of his office and his people's honor. He walked to Minho.
Right.
On my world, he said quietly, we have a word for what you did. We call it true strength. He placed the sash on Minho's shoulders. The gallery erupted. A tall counselor stood. Then another. Then another. Representatives from species that had been silent for centuries rose to their feet, their voices joining in a roar that shook the ancient walls. General Vor stood frozen. His yellow eyes were wide. This was not possible. This was not how power worked. But power was changing. Right there, in that chamber, the old order was breaking apart. The chief counselor raised his hand for silence. When the noise finally faded, he spoke. The charges against Sergeant Minho Park are dismissed. Furthermore, General Vor is hereby removed from command pending investigation into his conduct during the Battle of Telos 9. Vor's face twisted. You cannot do this. The code will be rewritten. The chief counselor's voice was firm. It is clear that our traditions no longer serve our people. It is time for change. He looked at Minho. Sergeant Park, the coalition owes you a debt we can never repay. Your actions have shown us a better way. We will not forget. Minho nodded slowly. He did not feel like a hero. He felt tired. He felt old. He felt the weight of 24 names that would never leave him. But as he walked out of the chamber, past the cheering crowds and the grateful faces, he allowed himself one small thought. They had won. Not just the battle. Not just the trial. They had won something bigger. Something that would change the galaxy forever. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Telesnine. Retrapped. Someone, please help us. Please, the transmission cut to static. The bombing lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of fire and death and screaming. 6 hours while the Galactic Accord did nothing. 6 hours while Earth Command could only say they were working on a diplomatic solution. When the sun rose over New Busan, there was nothing left to save. The beautiful cities were ash. The millions of lights were gone forever. The 4 million people who had lived there, who had celebrated, who had loved and hoped and dreamed, were dead. All of them, including a young mother and her 2 children who had been excited. About a festival, Admiral Tai-ho stood on his bridge and felt something break inside him. Not his heart. Something deeper. Something that had believed in rules and fairness and the goodness of following protocol. The Galactic Accord finally responded 3 days later. They sent a formal letter expressing deep concern over the incident at New Busan. They suggested that both sides enter arbitration. The process would take approximately 18 months. 18 months. For 4 million dead humans, on Earth, President Murray Cho received the recordings from the horizon. She sat alone in her office and watched every minute. She listened to every scream. She heard a child's last words to a mother who could not save her. When she finished, her face was like stone. There were no tears in her eyes. There was something else. Something cold and patient and terrifying. She called an emergency session of the United Earth Parliament. Every representative from every nation gathered. President Murray played the recordings for all of them. She showed them what the Valari had done. She let them hear the last moments of 4 million human beings. When the recordings ended, the room was silent. Many representatives were crying. Some looked sick. All of them looked at President Murray and waited. We want arbitration in 18 months, she said quietly. They killed 4 million of our people, and they want us to wait 18 months for a meeting. She looked at each representative in turn. What is your decision? The vote was unanimous. Every single nation. Every single voice. President Murray nodded slowly. She sat down at her desk and wrote humanity's response to the Galactic Accord. It was only 7 words long. The message was sent to every species in the galaxy. To the Accord Council, to the Valari Empire, to everyone who had watched New Busan burn and done nothing. The message read, "We're done being polite." Watch as Admiral Tai-ho read the message on his bridge. For the first time since the massacre, he felt something other than grief. He felt the cold, the patient thing that President Murray had felt. Humanity had come to the stars with open hands and kind words. They had followed every rule. They had been good and polite and proper, and the galaxy had let their children burn. Now, the galaxy would learn why humans had learned to be polite in the first place. Because they were very, very good at the alternative. The Valari border world of Vesser 4 was supposed to be impossible to attack. 12,000 warships protected it at all times. Sensor networks scanned every corner of space for hundreds of kilometers in every direction. The Volari military commanders slept peacefully, knowing that no enemy could get close without being detected at exactly 0300 Galactic Standard Time. Their sensors showed nothing. Empty space. Perfect silence. The night shift officers were bored. Some of them played games on their personal devices. Others talked quietly about their plans for the weekend at 0301. 47 black ships appeared inside their defensive perimeter. Commander Ji Suan stood on the bridge of the Silent Rage, the lead vessel of Earth's Ghost Fleet. Her ship had no running lights, no visible markings. Its hull was painted the color of the void between stars. She had trained her crew for 8 months in complete darkness and total silence. They communicated through hand signals and neural links. They moved like shadows. All ships in position. Her tactical officer reported through their shared neural connection. Jisoo looked at the Volari fleet on her screen. 12,000 ships against 47. The numbers were laughable. Any rational military would have called this mission suicide, but the Volari had never seen human weapons. Fire the first torpedo, Jisoo commanded. The Silent Rage released a single quantum disruption torpedo. It flew toward the largest Volari dreadnought, a massive warship almost 2 kilometers long. The Volari detected it too late. Their point defense systems could not lock on to something that bent light around itself. The torpedo struck. Reality itself seemed to scream. A sphere of absolute darkness expanded from the impact point, swallowing everything it touched. The dreadnought simply disappeared, as if it had never existed. No explosion, no debris. Just emptiness where a ship had been. The Volari fleet panicked. All ships, engage, Jisoo ordered. The Ghost Fleet struck from every direction at once. They had spent months studying Volari formations, learning their communication patterns, identifying their weaknesses. Now they exploited every single one. Spectre-class ships darted between enemy vessels, too fast and too small to target effectively. They fired precision strikes at engine cores and weapon systems. Volari ships exploded in chains as one damaged vessel crashed into another. A Volari commander managed to organize a counterattack. 20 warships focused their fire on a single human vessel. The human ship simply vanished, reappearing behind the attackers a moment later. Its stealth systems could not be tracked by Volari sensors. What are they? A Volari officer screamed into his communication system. They are ghosts. They appear and disappear. We cannot hit them. The battle lasted 11 minutes. When it ended, the orbital defenses of the Surfor were floating debris. The 12,000 ships that had protected the world were destroyed or drifting without power. The Ghost Fleet had not lost a single vessel. Jisoo looked at the planet below. She could end this now. Her weapons could burn the same way the Volari had burned New Busan. 4 million for 4 million. An eye for an eye? Her finger hovered over the firing control. Then she remembered President Murray's words before the mission. We are not them. We do not kill civilians. We will show the galaxy the difference between justice and murder. Jisoo pulled her hand back. Open a channel to the surface, she ordered. The Volari planetary governor appeared on screen. He was terrified, his scales pale with fear. This world is now under human control, Jisoo said calmly. Your military forces will surrender immediately. Your civilians will not be harmed. This is not revenge. This is consequence. The governor surrendered within minutes. Humanity did not occupy. They served for, they did not take resources or demand payment. They simply left a message broadcast on every frequency in every language used in the galaxy. This was one fleet. We built 30. Your move. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. Species that had ignored the massacre of New Busan suddenly paid very close attention. The Galactic Accord called an emergency session. The Volari Empire demanded immediate sanctions against humanity for what they called unprovoked aggression. Ambassador Arayun walked into the Accord Council chamber with her head held high. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice that never rose above a normal speaking level. The other ambassadors watched her nervously. The Valari ambassador stood first. "This is an outrage," he shouted. "Humans have attacked a peaceful Valari world without warning. They have murdered thousands of our soldiers. The Accord must punish them immediately." Ara waited for him to finish. Then she activated her display screen. "Before we discuss punishment," she said quietly, "I would like to show the council something." She played the recordings from New Busan. Every scream, every explosion, every child crying for parents who could not save them. The council chamber was silent except for the sounds of a planet dying. When the recordings ended, Era played the Valari ambassador's speech from 6 months earlier. His mocking voice filled the chamber. "They are prey animals. They talk because they cannot fight." The ambassador's scales turned dark with shame. "You had 18 months to act," Era said, her voice still quiet. "You watched 4 million of our people die and did nothing. You called us prey. So we stopped being prey." She looked around the council at every species that had offered only empty words after the massacre. "This is not aggression. This is consequence. There will be more consequences until the Valari answer for 4.2 million murders. We will not wait for your arbitration. We will not beg for your help. We will handle this ourselves." She folded her hands in front of her. "Unless this council would like to stop us." The chamber remained silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Era smiled politely, exactly the way humans had always smiled. But now everyone understood what that smile really meant. "I thought not," she said. Meeting adjourned. She walked out of the chamber without looking back. Behind her, the galaxy began to realize that everything they thought they knew about humans was wrong. The prey had become the hunter, and the hunt was just beginning. Emperor Wrath of the Valari. Empire had ruled for 60 years. He had conquered 12 species. He had built the largest military force in the known galaxy. No one had ever dared to challenge him until now. He stood in his throne room, surrounded by his advisors, and screamed with rage. Reports of the attack on the Surf 4 played on every screen. His unbeatable fleet had been destroyed in 11 minutes by ships that appeared from nowhere.